All that chrome's messing with your nerves.
It's just some jitters. Ain't nothing to worry about.
Cyberpsychosis, this is what happens in cyberpunk when you've had just too much chrome and all of that has started to mess with your brain. Psychosis is when you start to lose that thought of what is fantasy and what is reality. It can take the place of hallucinations, hearing things, smelling different things, and no longer being able to control your body. This is that cautionary tale, the cost of being able to be that powerful.
You can't keep this up, babe.
That a little metal ain't gonna be enough to...
Maine?
He's already hallucinating. It's a really hard thing when you're this strong, powerful character, this leader, but your body starts to betray you. The first thing that we usually go through is denial. We don't want to believe that it's happening. We don't want to believe that our body has betrayed us, that we're not tough enough or strong enough to be able to control this. And so for a lot of people, they wait just way too long to be able to get help, even though somewhere in their mind, they probably know that they might need it. The more that you hear that, the more that you want to push that away, because oftentimes we look at not being able to cope with something as weakness, not just not having the skill or being more sick than our body is able to handle.
Maine!
Ain't nobody gonna set my limits but me. Made it this damn far without trouble. Ain't about to backtrack now.
And that pushback, so it's gone from that to anger. He's angry at himself, angry at the world. We often use anger as a tool in this way. He wants to push Dario away, and so he uses that anger as a tool. Stops asking him the questions that he doesn't want to answer, or forcing him to do the things that he doesn't want to have to do, which would be get help, or perhaps even have less chrome, but that would mean that he's less powerful.
Hey!
What gives? What the hell happened? We get jumped? And what happened to Kiwi's...
He's gone so far into his psychosis that he's done all of these horrible things, but think about the guilt that you'll feel when you've done these horrible things, but you don't remember any of it. He actually thinks that it's probably someone else. And that guilt and regret, for some people, that will end up making them finally get help. But for others, it makes them go further into that denial, and especially if they're more on the attachment scale of being avoidant. So now there's going to find even more ways of not having to deal with the issue that's at hand.
I can't believe this.
Huh? You saying Kiwi's out of commission? How? Something go way south?
Should ask the next to me.
Off.
He can't apologize. He can't really absorb the gravity of the things that have happened to you. And when we're dealing with psychosis and you've done something that's horrible, it's really hard because no one else can really understand that you don't even know what's real and what's not real. But that feeling of mistrust that you have when it's not just your body that's betraying you, but also your mind. It can be one of the scariest things ever because whatever we see, what we believe, that becomes reality to us. And so if you can't trust your own mind, the things that you see, what can you trust? It can be an exceptionally isolating feeling, and because no one else will really understand it, it's often really hard to be able to discuss this with other people because you think that you'll be judged or perhaps looked down on, or the role that you have, the job that you have, the status that you have with your friends and the people around you also might be diminished, or worse, for someone like Maine, they might pity you or feel sorry, and you'd rather anything but feel that.
Maine punched her out and he lost it.
Huh?
Sounds to me like Maine needs to get his head checked. Easy, Maine.
And it's hard for those around someone also to be able to deal with it because if, like Maine, you're not able to talk about it, then how do you broach this really difficult subject that you want someone that you care about just to get help so that they're better, so that they're back in control and that you can trust them and that they can trust themselves? I think that often that ability to be able to talk about these difficult situations is exasperated because we don't talk about them. We don't mainstream them. This is something that affects hundreds of thousands of people, yet it's something that we don't have a discussion about because people are so afraid of saying something that might be wrong or asking the wrong questions or making people feel bad that we end up just leaving people to feel alone, isolated, and often abandoned. In this case, Maine's psychosis is dangerous because he's violent when he's going through it, but people with psychosis are by and large not dangerous violent. It's not something that should be stigmatized. They see things that are different. Their brain is often chemically or wired differently. But just because of that, it doesn't mean that this person should be put out of your life or you have to be worried around them. There's actually no greater chance of something violent or horrible happening compared to the mainstream population. I think that a lot of times this, though, is because of media, that we often have people that are going through psychosis that they're doing something horrible, dangerous, or violent, and that goes a long way to be able to re-stigmatize people that are dealing with this and less of a chance that they're going to be able to talk about it. But just because someone's dealing with psychosis doesn't mean that they're a danger to you or the people that you love.
Losing it?
That's right, cyberpsychosis.
And yes, people that are dealing with psychosis can live completely wonderful, fabulous, full lives, being successful and enjoying a full world. Now we have really great medication, we have great treatments, we have great anger management and anxiety management tools. And these things can really lower the levels of psychosis. We're still a little ways away from fully understanding what is the brain chemistry and what happens in the brain when you're dealing with psychosis. We are learning more and more every day. So if you are dealing with psychosis, please know that you can get help, and please don't feel like you can't talk to someone. Reach out, let someone know so that you can feel better. And if you're dealing with someone that has psychosis, talk to them how they're doing, check in, and ask them, how do you want me to handle it? Because everyone wants to handle something differently. And I think that if you don't have that conversation, then you don't know what are the rules of engagement with the person that you care about.
Maine, hold up. Dorio just told me, you're gonna be all right? Like,
All right. What's that mean, all right? Not a cyber psycho.
And that's exactly what people worry about. Maine's not used to being the person that's worried about. He's the leader and used to being the one that worries about everyone else. So when David goes up in a very kind way and asks him, which I think is a really kind thing to do, are you okay? And he's like, you're going to be fine. But right away, Maine feels like he's being judged, that he's going to go through psychosis and end up being a danger to everyone that's around him.
Do me a solid, lay off. Think you're hot because you're faster than me? Because you're sporting that Sandevistan? The one that was supposed to be mine.
Even though David is just showing care and wanting to be able to reach out to Maine because he worries about him, because David leans more into being that feeler type of personality, Maine sees it as him looking at him as weak and that he needs his help, because that's Maine's fear. That's why he's so big and tough and runs the group, because that's his shield so that no one can see that he's also worried on the inside. And his reaction to push David away so that he doesn't have Maine feel like he's feeling sorry for him or that he's weak is by being aggressive with him. So he doesn't try to do it a second way. And often we use anger like that weapon, this tool, this armor to be able to keep other people away from us, because in the end, the truth is if we peeled off that armor, that really it's not that we're angry, but really we're scared.
What the f*** you doing, Maine? Get it together!
So Dorio sees Maine going through another episode of psychosis and tries to yell or wake him up from this, but in the end that's not really gonna work. You can end up using grounding techniques, but it takes a certain amount of skill, not just for you as the facilitator or person that's helping out, but also for the person that's going through it. Without that training beforehand, because for Maine this has just happened. They didn't have any time or practice to be able to find out what is the best way to help bring him back to reality.
Dorio!
Oh my bloody god. So one, realization that you've done something horrible and realize that you've damaged, in Maine's case, killed Dorio, someone that was your right-hand person, the person that you cared about the most, that you fought to protect all of this time, and you've been the one that ended up doing this. It's a really hard thing to be able to handle that kind of grief, that kind of devastation, that it was your hand that's done something so horrible.
Is this Is this my fault?
And that thought of like knowledge of, for Maine to realize that all of this mayhem around him, it was him. You know, for Dorio to care about him enough to risk their life in order to try to protect Maine and the job. It's just so heartfelt. Like, this was just probably one of the moments that I just kind of like had my mouth open the entire time in shock and horror that this was really happening. I really felt it. I felt for Maine, and I felt the gravity of the situation because he really couldn't get ahead of it.
David, you can't do it.
I don't. Why would you?
He just wanted so much to be heard that he could, that it wasn't because it couldn't physically happen. It was more that for Maine it couldn't emotionally happen.
Why?
It's the end of the line for me, but not for you. Just keep running.
For Maine, I think it was just that he couldn't live with the things that have happened because of his hand. If you're dealing with guilt or something horrible has happened to you, there is hope. There is a way to get out of it and deal with the guilt or the shame or the embarrassment that you might feel. Horrible things happen to all of us. And in Maine's case, it wasn't his fault. He didn't intentionally do any of these things. It was too much to handle too quickly because the people that he cared most about weren't there and weren't there about his own hand. He didn't want to have to deal with it, and so decided that this was the end of the line for him. If you want more videos on the psychology of your favorite shows, please check out some of my other videos. You can also check out my Arcane Season 1 Jinx Complete Saga. It's a compilation video of all my Jinx related videos. It's nearly 2 hours long and available ad-free, sponsor-free, only on Nebula. And Nebula is bundled in for free when you sign up with today's sponsor, CuriosityStream, at curiositystream.com/Georgia Dow, or by clicking on the link below. And right now, because you're watching this video, you can get CuriosityStream on sale for 26% off. That's less than $15 a year, less than the price of one movie ticket for the whole year. And that includes thousands of amazing documentaries like David Attenborough's Light on Earth. Why do some animals produce a light of their own? For centuries, we could only marvel at the mysteries of bioluminescence. Now you can revel in the amazing truth about these living lights. Signing up is one of the best ways to support educational creators directly, and for the best deal in streaming today, over 26% off CuriosityStream, less than $15 a year, and Nebula bundled in for free. Yes, free. Just click on the button on the screen or head on over to curiositystream.com/Georgia Dow. Clicking on that link really does help out my channel, so thank you, and thank you to CuriosityStream for sponsoring this video, and thank you for all the support. So that's a little bit on Cyberpsychosis as it comes to Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Let me know, what are your thoughts on it? And this moment for you, how did you feel about it? Was it as shocking for you as it was for me? Let me know in the comments below.